welcome to PodRocket, a web development podcast brought to you by LogRocket. I'm Jack Herrington. I'm here today with Adam Argyle, who's just learning CSS lately, and he wants to talk about how it works with AI, and wants to talk about how AI sucks at the front end. Hey, Adam, how you doing?
I'm good. I just learned about display flex yesterday, and it's blowing my mind.
Yes, one of the 8 different ways of doing layout in the web.
I have, though, mastered centering already. So even though I started yesterday, I can center divs. So.
Yes, or you can pay Opus an obscene amount of money, apparently, to center a div for you.
Or can it? That's actually part of the conversation today. Can it do that? I've had it burn my entire sessions tokens on one CSS task before, and then I went in and I looked it up, and I was like, it was one CSS toggle that I did into DevTools, and I was like, I just wasted who knows how many dollars on you just sucking at that. So anyway, other things it does great though, so it's weird.
Yeah, like people talk about how they have like 5 different agents running simultaneously, and then I'll watch my agent like go off the rails and start like just doing stuff that like, dude, no, like you're totally wrong at this point. Couldn't be more wrong. Stop, please. Like, I can't imagine doing that with 5. But anyways, I was just joking up front. Adam Argyle is amazing. Adam and I spoke at Cascadia, actually, last year. That was fantastic. And Adam, if you ever get a chance to see Adam, it's like a whole thing. It's just this amazing ball of energy, and it's just him. That's not an act. That's just him, and it's great.
Thank you.
And he knows your blog is fantastic for basically showing off essentially everything that the browser can do. And I remember when View Transitions came out, like just your demos are fantastic. It was like, oh, check it out. You can do this. You can do this. And then I would go take a look at the code, and it was that. And you'd added like 5 extra examples that you hadn't. It was fantastic.
Oh, thanks, man. Yep, I obsess with it. This stuff's just so fun. And
I'm
like a kid in a candy shop. I'm like, you gave me a new toy and I'm going to go use it. And then my blog is just my little playground where I get to, I at one point called it the cesspool of web platform features because it would break so many demos, because even the browser engineers, they work with unit tests, right? They're like, look, I made a feature and it does a thing. I'm like, I combined it with 8 other brand new features and crashed the tab.
And it blew up. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Let's talk about AI in the context of this. And I seem to think that you might have some negative-ish opinions about AI and its ability to do UI work.
Well, it's just, there's something really ironic going on. And some of it makes sense and a lot of it's solvable. But the irony is like you sit down and you use Lovable, or you write a prompt and you have Markdown. You're like, hey, I have Markdown content. Make me a cool site tool. And then it goes, wah! And you're like, damn, that's actually pretty good. And then you're like, okay, but I want you to tweak this one little thing over here. And it goes,
yeah.
And it like falls over. And you're like, you just generated a pretty good looking site. And then I asked for a tiny change and you died. That's weird. And so that's one of the like ironies of the things that's going on. It is quite good. It's very capable, but in other moments, it just is weird with you. And you're like, what is going on here? So I decided to write a blog post about all my interactions with front end and using AI to generate things and to edit things, and just my observations at why it sucks and why really here's my hot take, dude. The hot take is CSS is going to be the last language that models are good at. And we'll get there. I'll explain it. But yeah, I think it's really hard for LLMs.
Yeah, I think you might be right. And if I was listening to this podcast kind of sight unseen, I might think it's always done a pretty good job like laying out forms and stuff. And it's like, yeah, it does a pretty good job at just like making the right input fields and doing that kind of stuff, because that part's pretty easy. But if you want to do an Adam Argyle style CSS, I mean, I think that's where you really leverage the best parts of CSS and really make a really exciting, dynamic experience for the customer. Yeah, I think we're going to have some problems with that.
We got some problems. So the blog post goes through. It's like the first thing I'm like, it's trained on ancient garbage. They had to. That's all they had at hand. If you think about the history of CSS, like they needed training data. So they go gobble up everything that they can. And the web is covered in CSS. And if you think about the amount of modern good CSS it got, it was like a fraction, like 5% of the entirety of what it got. So obviously it's going to regurgitate ancient garbage that it found. And that's just...
Yeah, it's going to give you floats and table layout.
That's what it does. Yeah, it does floats. Yeah, and that's why it doesn't really write CSS grid unless you ask it. It doesn't do logical properties unless you ask it. So it makes a very Latin, English, United States looking website. It doesn't give you something that's international or accessible because it's just trained on what it's trained on. So point number one can be fixed. I'm expecting specialist models to eventually come out, and you could find a CSS specialist model that omits the garbage from its brain and finds just the good stuff. And so somebody retrains a new model that's smaller, better, faster, and specifically tailored towards dope front ends. I could see that totally happening. But for right now,
and I think that we're going to start seeing that more and more just across all the vectors. You're going to start seeing a model that's really good at MongoDB and another one that's really good at React and that kind of thing. Because one, these frontier models are starting to spike in price. We're starting to get charged the actual amount that they actually should have charged us. And then the other thing is and that's going to push us to local models or small models. And I think that's where you can get this really cool hyper trained stuff. Like you can get the Adam Argyle model that it's not going to give you floats, baby. It's not going to give you old school table layout. No, it's going to give you the real deal.
Yep. And yeah, it's like, we'll just wait for that. Because yeah, we needed to generalize that. We're still exploring what these things do. So it makes sense where we're at. Like, I'm not chastising them too much. It's just a result of the training data. And that's fine. So that's number one. The first point of this, why AI sucks at front end, it's trained on ancient garbage. And yeah, that's a provocative way to call it ancient garbage. There's good stuff in there, but anyway, that was the first point. So.
You got to do the clickbait thing, man. Content person to content person every once in a while. You got to spice it up.
It works. Yeah, they got to come in with that. The second thing was an LLM can't see. It doesn't have eyes, and it's also not a human. It doesn't have design eye. And so there's all these things it does poorly. It's also bad at math. And all of this comes together. Like you can give it a picture and it doesn't know what a picture is, Jack. It's pixels on a screen. I need to turn that into a layout. Ooh, that's actually really awkward because I can't see the layout that you need me to see. It flies blind. Even if you give it an MC, like a browser MCP or a screenshot loop or all these different strategies, you still find that it's not that great. It's because it's pretty bad at math, and layout math is some of the hardest math. You think about like the DOM, and by the time you get to the component you're trying to edit, how much layout math has happened to get there. And the LLM is just, I am in context corruption and pollution right now, just trying to conceptualize the size of this box.
It's actually the smallest thing. But yet somehow it's larded up with all this garbage. And it's also using all this context about like Next.js or React and all of that stuff that like within the context of that moment are completely meaningless. It's just CSS.
Yeah. Okay, Jack, question to you. Have you ever asked an LLM to do something front end related and it said, Jack, I got you. It's done. And then you go look and you're like, it's a hot mess. You're like, hey, there's things missing. I can't even see them. Are they visibility hidden? What happened, LLM? You really messed up. And you're absolutely right. And then it goes back and it still messes up again. And you're like, it's because it can't see, man. Even when you give it tools to inspect the DOM, that doesn't mean that even if the DOM is there, dude, anything could be impacting this thing to make it not visible. And it's just CSS and the page is just so wildly global and local. And all these things are just coming together that how could it? It's even unfair to ask an LLM to understand this dynamic layout, painting and rendering and all this stuff all together. However, I think it'll get there one day. I think we can give it enough tools and enough scenarios that it could start to make and be more confident and produce better results.
That is an interesting point, though. There's just not that many sites that really do it well. And so that the training set is actually a lot smaller than I would hope. And in general, like I think there's a lot of sites out there where they're just looking for that kind of SaaS 3x responsive layout. Okay, there it is. And yeah, so I've definitely found that it can do that. If you're doing stuff that it's very similar to what you've done in the past. Layout tic-tac-toe for me. It can nail that. It can nail that 100 times in its sleep. But yeah, you want to explain to it like, okay, so we're going to have this animated transition between here and here. Yeah, good luck with that, man. That's just not happening. No.
Yeah, interactions are really tough for it. I fully agree. But there are tools that are trying to mitigate this right now. Have you seen agentation?
No.
Sounds or Impeccable?
Fun. Ooh, no.
V0?
Yes.
Okay, so V0 has in its feature set, and a lot of them do now too, where after you've prompted and you get a thing, because what we used to do is we would open up DevTools or see the preview and be like, oh, okay, that header text that starts with global whatever. Then you'd go to Claude. You'd be like, okay, Claude, now find the header text that has this class name that has this text content. Okay, now that you know what the hell I'm talking about, I want you to modify the margin on it or whatever. And that was our loop, was we had to translate and try to give it anyway. So now you have these scenarios like in V0 where you just click on the element and you annotate. And you click on something and you annotate. And that's what agentation does. It's a Chrome extension. Impeccable is a skill that runs a script on your dev server that then lets you click and describe and annotate. So we're trying to reduce the scope of all of the mess because it can't see, and give it a very particular thing to focus on. And then you ask for your change. And we're trying to make tooling to facilitate this flow because it was otherwise pretty clumsy.
But yeah, that actually makes perfect sense to me. We were doing a little bit. We had a POC of something similar with Tansec AI, and just like lack of resources, couldn't get there with it. But yeah, no, it's absolutely, I think this is a fantastic idea, because otherwise, like, it's, you just have a hard time even explaining where on the page the problem is.
Yep. And it's nice in V0 because it knows which React component it's using. Agentation also knows about which React component. So when agentation is weird, where you annotate and then you copy, and it creates this markdown chunk for you that used the source maps and other stuff. But the source maps are in there, so it knows which file to change. And so when you go paste it in Claude, it knows. Anyway, still a little clumsy.
Yeah, that's clumsy. That's clumsy.
Yeah. Impeccable is pretty cool, though, everybody. If you haven't tried that one out, definitely go look at that one.
Yeah. Are these pay for service? Oh, V0 is obviously pay for service. My wife was just like, oh, yeah, we just canceled that service. I'm like, yes. Okay. But yeah, so what about Impeccable is a skill?
Impeccable is a skill. Yeah. And it's on V3 now. It's gone through, it used to be 10 skills that were like, make this more fun, make this more consistent, make this more compact, make this more spacious. And it had these sort of designer verbs that were slash skills that you could use. And then by now, though, they're all rolled up into one Omni skill. It'll do skill
Uber
discovery
skill.
based on what you ask. Yeah, the Uber skill. And then it comes with this, if you want to use it, this thing will spin up with your dev server and create a whole UI about you selecting an element, asking and annotating a change using the skills that it has built in. And then it creates you 3 versions of it. And you just hit the left and right arrows and preview variants.
Oh, that's dope.
It's super cool.
I like.
And it's free, everybody. So
dude,
go check out by Paul Backhouse, Impeccable, who's a prior Chrome engineer that I worked with, a very good designer as well. So
kudos to that guy.
That
was one of my, you probably Photoshop guy too, back from the day kind of thing. And there used to be a thing where, and it probably still is, where they would have an effects gallery, whereas they'd show you like 9 variants of what we do to this particular thing, and then you can click along and more of that,
Liquify
please,
and grainy, and they were all there. Yeah.
And that was great, because then, it was so much easier to like, oh, okay, actually, I want you to push it this way or push it that way. Yeah. That's great. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the fact that LLMs can't see is fine. I think we'll get there. We'll give them the things that they need eventually. And when we have all these cool new browsers coming out too, we have Agent Browser. What's the Penguin one that's like the Rust one that doesn't even need Chrome headless anymore? It's like super fast and can do all this stuff.
I don't know that one. But I've got like 3 different
that.
agentic browsers. Oh my God, dude. Like they're just everywhere.
Yeah, I've got them all installed too. Yeah. I think I only open up Dia very often.
Yeah, actually, I'm on Dia lately. There's Arc and Google Comet. And Chrome now has the Gemini built in and blah, 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 blah.
Yep. So yeah, that was point 2 in the article, was that LLMs can't see. We can teach them to see. And here, just a small rant again, because the first one is ranty too. The second one to rant is like, they're using our computers now, Jack. They can't even see, but they can click buttons, order things, move around, switch apps, do all this stuff, but they can't stinking do a layout. And so it's just, that's why I had to write this article. It's like, why can't it do this? It can do so much. It could write Rust apps, but it can't write grid. What is going on?
Well, one thing is these are language learning models. Right. They are the whole idea is that it predicts the next token. That is it. Yep. Right. And it's trained on
I call them word vomit machines, these clinkers. Yep.
It's just a weird model for then asking it to go around and tell you if you should invade Iran or whatever. Don't use that. But also I've tried it for like 3D modeling and stuff like that, or even 2D modeling. And it's terrible. It's terrifying.
Oh, the fingers. all the fingers on the things you make. I'm like, I tried to make a little boy flying in the air and it made this freak kid with like way too many fingers. And I was like, put it away.
Yeah. The image models are great, but they're meant for more like creative kind of stuff or whatever. There's no model that like understands spatial reasoning. And I think that's actually, it's a hard problem when you think about it. Like, how would you, like, how do you train it? What's right? What's wrong?
Yeah. A lot of training data. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. And that's part of the other thing it can't see, but it's making very realistic images. And now it's making video. People are making entire videos by stringing together all the clips that they get out of these tools. And it's pretty good. But again, why is a web page so hard when it can make movies that are like Pixar quality? Like why? Anyway, we'll go on to point number 3 then from the blog post, which is it doesn't know why we do things. And I think with like video and images and some of these other examples, it's a little easier to know why something's happening. And plus it's all in the prompt. You're like, I want a penguin riding a bicycle, or what is it? A pelican. I want a pelican riding a bicycle. And the user just wants an image. I don't need to know why this is happening. But like with a web page, there's a user goal and there's probably 50 user goals all at one time on the web page. And somehow it has to balance all of those, but one of them at the same time. And us as plebes, normies, right? We're like here balancing that as part of our job is to make something user centric. And I think you can just easily overload an LLM if you tried to even tell it all the reasons why this should exist. And so limiting the focus and the scope when interacting with an LLM is how you get good results, right? Because it just prints out the next word. And so it's on us. So this one is a little harder, but I do think LLMs will start to understand why better. But for right now, when we make architectural decisions, they don't know why. And they'll even be sycophantic with you. Hey, great architectural decision,
Oh my
Jack.
God, right?
I can't believe you chose that. That's the smartest thing I've heard anyone say all day. And you're like, shut up, LLM. Just get out of here.
I know. I'm so sick of the glazing. I've turned it off and everywhere I can. Just add it to the system prompt. I'm not superhuman. Don't glaze me. Whatever. And it's actually a much more pleasant experience. It is. I kind of miss it now and again. It's like having a bad day. It's like nice to a little bit.
Tell me I'm pretty.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, I know what you mean. And that's interesting because I don't know. I don't think that they, at least on the current path and the way that these models are built, I don't ever see them going there. And that's why, like, just recently Kent Dodds put out an article about how like now we're all product engineers. And I think that's true, right? We all should have been the whole time trying to just like understand the customer and what it is that they're doing and why it is that they're doing it. Even as an engineer, you need to know this stuff because the spec document is not going to have all that. And you really need to work with your product manager and understand why people are doing it so you can make the right decisions. And so we're always supposed to be there, but LLMs are pushing us more in that direction. And also having taste, actually being able to look at something and say, yeah, that's hot garbage. Like that. Why are you using so many fonts? You shouldn't be bombasting with 8 different colors unless that's the point.
Yeah. Yeah. And the blog post, I'm like, and you mentioned it already, we've got spec-driven development, which I'm very positive about because I want more people to participate in the creation of software. And I think specs make that much more approachable. It's like natural language. But then you have BDD, behavioral driven design, and state machines. So if you practice spec-driven design, behavioral driven design, and you create state machines, these things can really put enough bounds on the why. So here's what the user's goal is. These are the BDD things. It says this user they need to be able to log out. Great. So then you have a state machine that kind of represents logged in and logged out. And so now you're shaping the world of this thing, right? So now it knows a little bit about why, it knows how the states work. And then you've got a spec that sort of outlines all this other important details for you about how this should operate. And that is going pretty good. But even with those things, you'll find that it doesn't do good animations. It lacks the robustness of all the potential states it could be into. So you still need to drive it. You're right. You still need to be a product owner. There's a lot that you still contribute as a human in this process. But yeah, the point of this one was that it doesn't know why we do things. That's on you generally. Unless maybe one day it'll be able to work backwards. Be like, I want a tuner application. I want a banjo tuner. And it goes, I know why he wants one. He wants to tune his banjo. Like, brilliant.
Crazy.
Now work backwards. What are all the things I'm going to need so maybe I've actually here's a crazy thought, Jack. This is a modern this week thought for me.
Okay.
The diffusion models have been making me think about working backwards from a problem. And so if you've got hey, user asked for a Banjo app, you can fuzzy out to think about all the other things that sort of tuners have. What are the classic things and attributes of a tuner and the reasons that someone might use a tuner? Fuzzy out again, expand all these things and gather data, gather information, context and patterns and consistencies and desires, and then wrap it all back into the final product. That could be a really cool way to use models, is to extrapolate, identify patterns, and aggregate, and bring them all back together on the most common best practices and patterns into a final solution. So it
unless you really
why
just,
we do things,
just
but
specifically want a Banjo tuner. And then when it does that expansion and contraction thing, and now it's talking about like Chinese lute doesn't have the same harmonic signature.
Yeah, the shamisen. Do you need to tune a shamisen? I'm like, right? I don't.
You want the singing bowl tuning as well? I came up with that feature. No, man, I just want to tune my freaking banjo, man.
Oh, that's hilarious. You are right. It could definitely go off the rails. Yeah, rails. You got to get these things rails. Otherwise, they just make more words. Here's more words for you. And I'm like, I didn't want those ones. Anyway, anything else you want to comment on the it doesn't know why we do things section of the article?
No, let's keep going. I'm in.
All right, cool. So yeah, those first three ones, I complain about them. I think they're worthy complaints. They're just the state of now. I think they're solvable. This fourth one though, this is the kicker, Jack. This is the one it's not going to be able to do. And it's summed up best in, let's see, I'll just read. Here's one of my quotes from it. Oh crap. It's damn it, humans. We're an LLM combinatorial explosion. We're unpredictable targets. We change our minds. We switch viewports. We change theme preferences. We change our devices. We change our browser. We change browser versions. We switch the way that we do inputs with our finger, with a mouse, with the keyboard, with our eyes or whatever. We change our everything, and we are not a static target, Jack. We're not a pattern that can be learned. So you can't pin us. We're not a pinnable version. Like Rust is a thing that you can pin. You say, I'm going to make an app for this version. Back-end developers, they can pin a version. Front-end developers can't pin shit, man. I'm sorry, you can leave that out if you want to. But you can't pin the browser that I brought to the table. You also can't pin the size that I brought the browser to the table. You can't pin almost anything about it, which makes the matrix of state is wild. And CSS is built to handle that matrix of state, but an LLM isn't. Matrices of state drive it nuts. And so we are just naturally in a state where this is why I think CSS will be the last thing it knows how to write, is because you can't pin anything about it. CSS has always been a request. It's not a demand. The browser and the user ultimately has control this entire time. It's a complex environment for it to try to do stuff in. And anytime you change the state of it, the whole thing could reshift again. And then the LLM has to reevaluate. You can just see the LLM going, let me go chase down this rabbit hole. There's 8 more rabbit holes. There's 8 more from the age of the 8. And that's why I think I'm done with the layout and it's just gave up. No?
Yeah, exactly. That models like our interface with it. I've had jobs in the past where they're trying to go for, and this, I hate these words so much, pixel perfection, right? This is what we made. It's supposed to be this. And then, of course, like they didn't give you the mobile version. They didn't give you the tablet version. They didn't give you anything. And now you got to do this dance of, okay, I'm going to be reinterpreting this and blah, 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 blah. And then they're invariably, they're like, oh, got to make this change. And then you tweak that one thing and then 15 other things break because now, oh, wait, hold on. All the layouts are wrong and all that. That's actually one of the reasons why I was so excited about the sub layout thing, the container stuff in CSS, because like it allowed me to scope like a component down to really what it is. If you lay it out on the sidebar, it's going to lay out like this because that's the width of the container. And if you lay it out in the center section, it's going to be this. And I was like, yes, bingo. Because then I can literally just look at this component and be like, yep, that's the one. And that kind of thing. But of course, I don't see that many uses of container out there, sadly.
LLMs haven't trained enough on container queries, and so they're not going to produce it. Dude, have you heard the joke where it's like a CSS walks into a bar and a bar stool and another bar falls over?
Yes. I haven't heard that, but it's exactly true.
Right? Yeah. You're just like, I'm just going to change this one margin value. And you're just like, a whole avalanche falls down in your app. And you're like, no, that's not what I wanted. Oh, yeah.
Well, that was a whole... it's a cascade, right? This whole CSS thing, we never even use it as anymore. It is baked in from like Word documents way back. And it's like, you're supposed to be able to define like a class and then a subclass on that class. Nobody ever uses it like this, but like it cascades, right? And the reason we don't use it like that is because of the barstool problem.
Yeah. And the cascade is only part of the issue. That's how styles are resolved. But then there's the concept of extrinsic versus intrinsic layouts. And extrinsic is what designers always do. They draw a box and then they paste, I almost said shit inside, but then I said it and bleep me. I'm so sorry. Anyway, they draw a box and they put something inside. And that's not the way the web wants to work, or the web can work in a way where it makes a box perfectly fit for the content, which means the content can change size based on user preferences, can change languages, can change all these different things, and always have a perfect box around it. That's an intrinsic request. It's like asking the human, hey, how tall are you? Let me make a form fit for you. Actually, let me make a coffin for you. How tall are you? But there's like pause. Hey, let me make an airplane for you. I'll make you a personal aircraft at your size, right? And that's intrinsic, but we tend to not do intrinsic because it has combinatorial explosions also. If you think about it, that means when a short person comes in and they get a small aircraft, your factory has to be prepared for a small
Making
aircraft.
a small engine. And how does that work?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That churn causes people to go extrinsic and make one size fits all. And that's the pixel perfect thing, which is, again, it always comes back to bite you, but it allows you to get somewhere quick in the beginning. So anyway, the web has many intrinsic powers, and even powers where like it'll adjust layouts based on space being requested by the inner content, which is another thing LLMs don't like, is that a lot of times layouts work from the inside out and it wants to think about outside in.
Yeah, that one makes my blood boil. I gotta say, just as an engineer, I'm like, oh no, that's not good. Because it's always one of those things where it's, why is this bounding box not staying static? I'm hitting it with 8 different versions of width. And then it doesn't, and then it blows up and you're like, please stop.
Stinking height 100% too. You're like, height 100%. And it's, I am. And you're like, no, you're not. It's
Right?
like, where are you trying to resolve this from? DOM node? Yeah, anyway.
That's actually, I think that would be a great version of a use for AI. Would be, just literally click on something and be, why is this happening? Where does that come from?
Yeah, I think that's in Chrome DevTools. That's what
of what,
they've got the AI assist in there.
So is it Gemini? It's probably Gemini. It's probably one of the small models.
It might be the small one, yeah, because it's built in there. Yeah.
We experimented with small models.
Yes, didn't we? Yeah. Gradient.style. Yeah.
Yeah, that didn't work so good.
It was a great idea. Maybe it's better now. That was it was ahead of its time, Jack. You were ahead of your time. It was.
And I think WebMCP might be the solve for that, but that's a different story.
It might actually just be skills. Like, how many color combinations and other stuff could there be? So maybe you use the weak LLM to just interpret the prompt request and then feed it into a pre-made set of gorgeous presets that a skill helps define. So
yeah, there you go. You're doing that smart thing, which is constraining the LLM, try and get it into actually making a decision that makes some amount of sense.
Yeah. Because what was your prompt? You're like, make me a gradient that's like a sunset or something like that. Yeah. We don't need a huge frontier model to do this work. Oh, speaking of that, there was a model that came out today and I was like, hey, this is relevant to the conversation. And I can't remember the name of it. So let me pull it up because it had the craziest name. It was cracking me up. Let's see. It was like Nemotron 3 Mini Max thing. Do you know what I'm talking about? The one from NVIDIA?
Oh, I've seen the Nemotron models and I've been using them for code, but I haven't been using them for actually doing app development.
Yeah, I haven't tried them either, but the Nemotron 3 Nano Omni model.
Ooh, exciting.
It reads your screen. So I was talking earlier about how it can't see, and there's people trying to work on that. So that's this brand new one that just came out today, has better vision of what's going on your screen than ever before, and can direct you on how to use any app that you want. And I don't know if it can do CSS layout, but they're trying to give it vision. They're trying to solve the problem of it can't see.
Yeah. It's not like it can't see is, I think, strong. Like when I use cursor, it does a lot of screen grabs to go and try and navigate around stuff.
Or makes videos now, yeah.
Oh, I haven't seen that. Ooh,
it'll make videos.
Oh, okay. I'll give that a go.
How about them tokens?
Yeah, that's a whole different story. But, and then when I use Claude, I've been doing this stuff out in my garage and just sending it pictures, and it's really good. It's actually been really good. Oh yeah, no, that wire doesn't go there. That goes over there, kind of thing. So it's getting there. But it doesn't have taste. I don't really think, like, taste is something you just can't give I think, to an LLM. Or if you do, it's going to just it's always going to give you the same look and feel because that's what it considers the taste from this year or whatever.
Yep. And there's also, you'd think it could be good at symmetry, and it can to a point, but there's a lot of weird things with design where the mathematical symmetrical answer is often visually off. And so like you have these differences between optical centering and mathematical centering, or optical color correction versus mathematical color. Color palettes are a really good example.
That was another one where, there's been some CSS stuff lately to give
text wrap balance.
Yeah, text wrap.
Yeah.
And even the documentation on it's vague. This is better. It's just better. I can't really enumerate how or why, but it's better.
Yeah, pretty's the one that's like very subtle. It's we'll barely touch the line breaking just so you don't have any widows or orphans. Like, okay, great. But yeah, color palettes are notorious for you get all these tools with math and you're like, okay, I want a 10% even grade of changes from the dark to the light one. Give me a nice palette, 0 to 10, evenly spaced. And then you get your color palette back and you're like, ew, that's weird. Or the palette looks good and then you go use it in practice and you're like, it's not producing good results. And then you go down the rabbit hole of how do you make good color palettes? And that is still being explored by humanity because we're still not done with color spaces and all sorts of things. So anyway, there's a whole can of worms in like math design versus optical and subjective human design. And I guess it comes down to taste, dude. Just like you're saying, I don't know how we're going to give LLMs taste, but we can ask for taste in someone else's trained agent, maybe. We'll see.
Yeah. Or maybe we have a Miami Vice pastel agent. It was really good.
Yeah.
Coming up with flamingo type designs, that kind of thing.
Yeah. But then you're going to need to have language. You need to know that's even an option. You have to go ask for it. It's not just going to give you something with good taste. Here's a creative tip for everybody out there. And this I'm finding is not very widely known, is that when you ask for something creative from the agent, it's only going to give you the highest probability answer.
Of course. Yeah.
Okay. You can ask it to give you 5 results and tell you what the probability is. And so you can be like, I want 5 new layout options here. Tell me the probability of each one that you would have chosen and let me try them on. And it'll be like, oh, it doesn't know why or what it's doing, right? So it's, oh, you're right. Here's my 5 options. Option 1 was 80% likely. I was going to give you that one. 40% likely for this one, 30, and it just goes down into here. And I'm like, cool, try the one at the bottom first because I'm looking for creativity and everybody else is getting the top one. Nobody else asked for anything else. So they're always getting the most probable answer, which means if you're not doing this technique, you're making mainstream shit, y'all. You're getting slop. You're not going to be unique. You asked for creativity, but you're just getting the average. You're getting the most mainstream thing possible. So break it down and work your way up and see what else you can get in there. So anyway, hot tip for y'all.
Yeah, that is it. If you showed up on the podcast and you got that tip right now, that your hour of listening time was justified because that is a fantastic tip. I love that. I'm going to do that myself. Yeah, because I know like underneath the hood, I've actually worked directly with these LLM APIs, like at under the level that most folks do. And yeah, it's all probability. Like all of this is all just probability. And yeah, it's an interesting idea. It's like normally every UI is going to just pick off the top one because it's the highest probability. And yeah, there's interesting content. There's an interesting fruit underneath that tree that maybe not the perfect one. Right? That rotten one over there has some interesting aspects to it. Or what?
You can fork and branch off of the third option. And that's what I do a lot of times when I'm being creative. I'm like, give me 5 creative options for a weird, cool thing that happens here. And I'm like, I didn't like any of them, but the third one had attributes that I liked. Make 5 more based off of that particular branch and just continue. So it's like iterating and exploring.
I want this. I want this to be a product, Adam. I want this to be something that I can integrate into Cursor and just be like, okay, let's do the Adam thing. Give me some options. Well, now we're going to get creative.
Show up in the matrix. You're like, okay, you pick that one. You're like, I want more. Down just expands into 5 more. You're like, more like down expands again. And you're like, okay, combine these 2, expands. And then you're like, that's the one right there. And yeah, that's like a whole 2 weeks of iterating with an art director and a designer and a developer all in one. And yeah, man.
Okay, trying to get the art director to like, no, be crazier. be da 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 da, and then they come back and they're kind of expecting that you don't want that or whatever, and you're like, no, whatever you thought I didn't want, that's probably what I do want, that kind of thing. And that kind of reminds me of like the early days of AI, where it was so much fun to just have it go and build out the app, the to-do list or whatever it was I was working on at the time. Commit that. Okay, it's working. Now let's have some fun. Let's actually go and play with it, play with the design, throw some crazy stuff at it and see what happens. And that was fun. That was great.
Yeah. Now we're just like Shad CN and Tailwind. Make it fine.
What's your take on Tailwind and all that? Are you a hater?
No, but someone said Failwind last week, and I thought that was funny. No, I like Tailwind. Tailwind has a special superpower in the CSS world that is unchallengeable, and that is that you reach a maxima of the style sheet. So one style sheet, as soon as it's, now we have Tailwind 4, which will build a style sheet based on what's used, which does grow theoretically. However, it can reach a maxima and make n number of pages with that one style sheet. So the fact that these all basically turn into pure functions, almost like functional programming, and then you can compose any number of pages off of it, that is amazing. But the sides of it that I don't like are that there's a lot of CSS that doesn't fit into the class paradigm anymore. Because again, CSS is dealing with a wild amount of context and state and scenarios and syntax and so sometimes Tailwind can get a little hairy trying to squeeze it into a class name, and you have to break out, and it feels naughty. As soon as you break out and you write regular CSS, you're like, now I don't have the promise anymore. My style sheet now can grow as more of these infect my style sheet. I guess there are container queries, but there's things like view transitions, and you need to define a custom view transition. You're not going to do that on the node. That's like a global thing you have to go create. App properties, even custom properties in a lot of scenarios, like it gets really awkward the more you branch out. And so there's a battle happening, and I don't know what the result will be, but the pure class-based authoring style and promise is losing a little bit to CSS growing and advancing and not caring that everything needs to be a class. It's doing its own thing. CSS will look out for itself. And so there's a clash there. Yeah.
I was working with Opus just like 4.7 just recently, and it was actually making its own on a Tailwind project. And it was making its own custom classes. And I was like, whoa, okay, that's new. That's novel. All right. Okay. If you think so, let's go.
Yeah. And sometimes it's just nice to style all the children based off a parent. I know you can do that with the group syntax and some of the other things inside of Tailwind, but people don't tend to do that. They tend to go put all the styles on the LI instead of putting it on the UL that styles the LI. And yeah, sometimes CSS is like a one-liner and you get this phenomenal power. And in Tailwind, you have to go mark up every single instance. And so trade-offs all over the board. Overall, though, I think Tailwind is great and has done a lot of great things for the community. So
I'll have to let Paige know, because Paige is, Tailwind. She hates Tailwind.
It's very polarizing.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So we talked a lot about what you don't like, and you put in a couple of amazing suggestions for us. But like, when do you think the current set of LLMs work really well? And how do you kind of work in your workflow around that?
Yeah, I've been getting some great results recently. Jack, have you tried auto research yet? Oh my goodness! Other than OpenClaw,
there's like every day there's a new thing.
I know, but I'm an OpenClaw fan. I now have my own Claude Claw, so I can still. Anyway, I'm not going to talk about that, but maybe we will. I'm really enjoying that. But I'm doing these things where, like at Shopify, we are using auto research a lot, and auto research is like an AFK type of way to do work with LLMs. You stick them in a loop. It's got a reinforcement loop. It's got saves in it, and it keeps track of all the data and makes these charts. And I'll set it up. I'll give it a plan, tell it needs to attempt to make the score better on this one thing. And we can talk about how to use auto research later. But just imagine I want a score to improve. And I give it the criteria of how it could go about doing that. But hey, get creative in the way you do it. Anyway, I wake up the next morning to it having done anywhere from 4 to 8 hours of loop work. And it has results for me. And it's got it in a data format, I think it's CSV. It's got a markdown thing. And then I can have Claude or whatever LLM go review the 8-hour log transcript, basically, and summarize it. But here's what I do, dude. Here's what's really cool is I wake up and I'm like, okay, Claude, go through all the data, summarize it. And then we're going to make an interactive scrolly telling website for it. And I want you to show code snippets about when things improved. I want you to make it really interactive where people can toggle the old and the new, or they can go through a little wizard that helps them also follow along with the logic that led to this improvement. And ultimately, then use all those impeccable design skills to make the site minimal and have all these. Anyway, I just do a bunch of art direction, and it takes me a couple minutes to write like this 1-paragraph prompt. But the juice of what auto research gave me was content, invaluable content, improvements.
And insights. Did he actually get some insights out of whatever this was? Okay.
Oh, it's always. And it's empirical. It's proven, and it can tell you how and where it got there. It can give you the actual results and make it all interactive. And so in 5 minutes, I've got a site. I push it up on an internal hosting thing, and I send a URL out to anybody who's interested. And instead of me making a dinky ass doc that I know you're only going to read the first paragraph and then go, you can open up a site and you start scrolling it, and it's telling you the story of all the improvements that it was able to do overnight. And it's giving you action items. And I've already got a PR up that makes the thing, it takes the learnings and applies it into our code base. And now we have a faster loading homepage. Dude, it's wild. And so so using these design skills like Impeccable, having content, you need to have content. So whatever can generate meaningful, juicy information in a small format, now you're just making websites all day with this stuff. And they can look great once you get a good grip on some design workflows. And you can try your creativity tools in there too. Be like, make me this site, make 3 different versions, tell me the probability of why you were going to do that one. And I'm going to choose the lower probability so I get something a little bit more unique than the other schmo that asked for the same thing.
Oh, and now I can totally see why you do it. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. The thing is that you understand the power of visual storytelling, though. And I don't think a lot of engineers do. And like I was lucky in that in one of my first jobs, the boss was like a huge fan of Edward Tufte. And so he was like, you got to go see this guy. You got to read his books. And Edward Tufte is all about the power of visual storytelling and how individual infographics can stop a war or tell you that you shouldn't have launched the Space Shuttle Challenger or whatever. And it can be very concise. But again, finding those key insights and then understanding how to take that and actually architect like a story around it is an amazing skill that, that very few people have. But I'm curious, do you have some good resources for folks who want to learn more about this kind of visual storytelling and how to apply it in their jobs?
That's a good point. I've mostly acquired it because I've been I have 20 years of making marketing websites, reviewing other marketing websites by Apple. I think the best thing to do is find something that told you a story that you liked and emulate it. There's even tools now with LLMs. You can point it at a URL and be like, turn this into a design system, turn this into a recreatable skill. So yeah, you could go find a storytelling example, turn it into something that's replayable and a skill, and then ask for the skill to be applied to your custom data set and see what it does.
Yeah, nice. That's a great point. Imitation, closest form of flattery, best form of flattery, that kind of thing. Yeah. And there are resources out there in terms of books that folks have written around data visualization, stuff like that. You can literally, they're almost like coffee table books. You can just flip through and be like, oh, I see. That's a cool visualization. That was not the way that you'd expect. And yeah, I tell you what, man, a cool visualization that actually like imparts a lot of data in a very small window of time is a fantastic resource for folks.
It's good. You do need to verify your data though, because it can hallucinate. And so don't go make a fancy ass website about some hallucinated data because it will be very convincing and people will want it. And then you'll be like, oops, it was wrong.
So this auto research tool, which is giving you this good verifiable data.
Yeah.
Is that something that's just Shopify internal or is that something that...
No, Karpathy. Andrej Karpathy. He's like a very famous OpenAI, I think early AI model, a great follow on Twitter. Pretty much all the tools that he makes go wildly viral and for a good reason. Although I was working my second brain before he told everyone to make that. I was ahead of him. And just kidding. So he came up with this thing called auto research. And it was that I love doing an impersonation of what it does. So I make this plan and you wake up an LLM. So the LLM goes, poof, hey, I'm here to do some work. And it's like, hey, LLM, I'm trying to make this score go up. here's the past failures of the past 2 LLMs that have attempted stuff. They failed. The score went down. So don't do what they did. I want you to find a way to make the score go up. And the LLM's like, cool. And it comes back and it's like, hey, I tried to make the score go up, but it didn't go up. And then the orchestrator goes, cool, you're dead.
You're dead. Bye.
Kills him.
Yeah.
New agent comes up. Poof, hey, I'm here to do some work. And the orchestrator of auto research says, hey, so here's the past 3 failures of the people before you. Don't do anything that they did. You should try to do something new. And it's like, okay, cool, boss. I'll go do something new. Comes back. Hey, I made the score go up by 1. And the orchestrator goes, ooh, we have a threshold that says the score has to go up by at least 3 or else you die. Or else gets killed. So then you bring up another one. So anyway, what happens is if the score is improved, it saves it and records what they did and then puts it in the data set. So you get to see there's these flat lines as LLMs try stuff because they're just next word vomit machines based on some context. They try stuff, then all of a sudden the score jumps, boop, and then it's flatlined for a little while, and then boop, jumps again. So you see this stair step of improvement across the score. And that's the core concept is there's an orchestrator that's managing the loop. You can assign which LLM you want to use. So you could use a lower quality LLM if you need to save some bucks or not. It's up to you. But the thing that's crucial, at least for me, is that a lot of people look at the limitation of it as a score, as a bummer, meaning that it's mostly a performance tool, which, by the way, it is a phenomenal performance impacting tool.
I can imagine, but no, almost anything can be evaluated as a score.
That is correct, especially with LLMs. So you can teach them a rubric. But real quick, I was trying to convince the Remix folks. I was like, you want to get your render performance up? Just chuck it at auto research. Just be like, here's all the benchmarks. Do whatever it takes to make the score go up. And overnight, you'll wake up to improvements 100%. So every framework out there, if you're... He hasn't listened to me yet. I'm still trying to convince him that auto research is cool. He said, no, I'm going to do it by hand. I'm like, all right, whatever. I was about to do it for him anyway. I don't want to shove that in front of him. Anyway, so I'm doing it with more subjective things where I'll teach an LLM a rubric, a scoring matrix. And I'm like, here's the qualities of things to look for. If they have them, they get a point. If they don't have them, they don't get a point. Here's things that decrease the score. These are extremely negative attributes of what I'm looking for. Great. So now you have an orchestrator agent that spins up naive agents to try to improve a score. Then you have an agent that reviews the work of the other agents to produce the score. And you can also have another agent that tries to learn from the prior successes and failures to generate a new context for the next agent. So now you have this self-healing, self-improving loop. This is what I keep calling loop engineering. So if you listen to the show I'm on, Whiskey Web and whatnot, we talk a lot about agentic loop engineering. And this is the AFK. This is all the people running, I got 5 agents doing stuff. I'm doing that because I am literally running a team of 5 agents that are self-looping and managing and trying to improve something based on criteria that I've taught it. So if you can fathom criteria that can create a score, it doesn't have to be performance benchmarks. It can be something subjective and you'll wake up to improvements. It's worked every time I've tried auto research. LLMs have been able to come up with something clever and improve something. Man, is it cool. It's expensive though.
That is really cool.
Beware.
Yeah. It's similar to something that was around a long time ago called artificial life. And the idea was that you would have like a rubric, and then you'd have you'd have an algorithm that would have like different parameters effectively. And you just essentially just randomize those parameters at the start. And then you'd create 1,000 randomized versions, figured out which ones are the best. And then you'd have a slight mutation on each one, and you just continue on those paths. And yeah, it's a sort of similar idea here. It's okay, that guy, he's getting a little better. So work on that and keep on going. And the thing you're going to run into though, in only running one at a time, is like a local minima problem where you fall into a pit of success effectively, or whatever. You reach a peak and it's an artificial peak. You didn't actually reach the peak. You just reached like a nice plateau, and you couldn't find a way to get off of that plateau without lowering the score so much that you had to whatever. So it might be one of those things where like an addition onto that is cool. That's great. I think we reached like a steady state here where we haven't actually made any improvement over a number of generations. Let's just freeze that and then almost start again in some entirely new random direction. But the nice thing is you're getting that randomness just from the nature of the models, the nature of the way that we run the models themselves, which is we start with essentially random weightings and we go from there.
Yeah, that's a very astute observation. And that led me to, so I've been using auto research for a few weeks now. And the most advanced thing that I did was I looped the loopers. So just like you're saying, you got to step back because you will only in that single narrow thing, you'll optimize that one narrow idea. But what if you want to compare competing ideas? And so I had a thing where I had 5 strategies for this problem I was trying to solve. And I was like, any one of these 5 can solve it. The question is, which one's the best? And so I set up our criteria. I set up parallel auto researching to happen so that each of these 5 ideas can be the best and represented that they're possible of being. And then at the very end, I compare and I compete them against each other to see which one actually emulates the qualities and gets the highest score based on the rubric that I'm looking for. So it allowed me to take this month's amount of research, condense it into an overnight thing, see the best representation of each strategy down to the tactics because it's LLMs. So there was actual code behind the score and behind the quality and behind the implementation. See which one actually scored at the top, see what trade-offs I was making at that particular point based on the different strategies, and make an extremely informed decision because I spun up multiple LLMs, which were also representing a team. It was fun that I was mentioning there's a scorer. I also had there was a designer, a developer, and a product owner on the team, and it was scoring what they produced. I got the idea from, dude, Jack, you ever heard of these people that they want to user test their apps, and so they spin up 500 different moms in an LLM context, and then they have them try the app out, and then they're like, hey, moms, give us a review. And it's like surprisingly good.
Yeah. IBM had this interesting project where it was basically a focus group. And you could just have, you submit an idea, and I was using this for my content stuff. Hey, what do you think about an idea about this particular content thing? And I had a senior engineer and a junior engineer and blah, 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 blah. And they would all give feedback on, I need more of this, need more of that kind of stuff.
That
workshop
is a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. You workshop it because they're simulated on Reddit. So they're going to represent a lot of people. So
at least it's not next door. Yeah. All right. Listen, we talked a lot. I do want one more topic though before we go. So you mentioned OpenClaw. What does your OpenClaw do?
Yes. So mine does not do email. It does not do the things that other people do.
Mine doesn't either. But yeah, go on.
And so, real quick too, I use CloudClaw, so I can still use my OAuth. So I'm still using my sign in, and that's because it uses so it's a bun server listening to Discord messages that then spin up the Cloud CLI, and that's works around their harness requirement. And they've just recently stated they're going to continue to support the CLI. So they don't like Pi as the harness, but they will let you use the CLI. So anyway, I've gone through and I've started I call it liberating my data. I'm doing air quotes, everybody who can't see me, because I'm scraping my data off of places where I've been investing it, downloading it onto my machine. And now I build my own custom apps with that data, and I interface with it through Discord. So a good example is birthday tracking. I now have my own birthday app. It gives me birthday alerts. I can add new birthdays into it just by texting Discord. I get Discord messages about upcoming birthdays, and now I'm free from whoever owned it before, which is like Google Calendar. All of the banjo songs I can play. I took all of my guitar tabs out of guitar tabs. You probably have a guitar tabs account. Dude, I took them all out. I took them all out, and I have my own. They're all on my machine now. So the whole world could go down, and I still have all of my guitar tabs right here on my computer. It's a second brain, so it's been tracking a lot of things for me that I have trouble remembering, like names. I suck at names so bad. But now I show up at the baseball game for my kids, and I'll show up and I'll be like, "What's up?" And I know everybody's name at the baseball thing because I reviewed them before I got there. So I'm like, "Hey, my CloudClaw is called Punk Ass, which is short for Punk Assistant." That's Punk Assistant.
Yes, of course it is.
Right? Of course it is. And I'm like, hey, punk ass, what are all the parents' names for Lincoln's birthday or for Lincoln's baseball team? And it goes boop. And I get to show up and I get to look like a pro.
Oh, does it have images too? For me, it would have to have images because I need.
It does not have images. I can remember faces, but it's like their names are just complete. I've said my name cup is full, and they just fall off.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you could do that. So yeah, I'm building personal software. I'm taking my data out of places where it was a walled garden into my own space where I own it. Nobody can take it from me, and my apps are my own. And then I'm building cool experiences. They're all PWAs, dude. Actually, here, let me show you. Check this out. I'm opening up my iPhone. I'm going to swipe over to this home screen and look at all the icons right here.
Oh, those are all just your custom apps?
Those are all different PWAs that I've built with my OpenClaw machine. So I have tabs, I have a beer tracker, I have a whiskey tracker, I have a birthday tracker, and I have a banjo tracker. And then I'm also having OpenClaw build a Shopify store and some other different software for me asynchronously. And it's cool.
Yeah, I'm with you. I have really invested in like a home setup lately. I had a studio machine, Mac Studio, that was running my actual studio, and I wasn't using it all that much. So I've turned it into basically an Olama server that runs OrbStack that has 10 different apps on it for doing finances and all this stuff. And it's all local. There is a cloud backup, but it's on my own thing. And yeah, we're really starting to go like, I guess vendor free or something. I'm sure that there's some word for it, like cord cutting. But yes, I'm totally with you. Great use. So much better than the other OpenClaw uses I've heard of. All right. Hey, Adam, always a pleasure seeing you again. And thank you to LogRocket for hosting this podcast and hosting Adam and I. We'll see you on the next LogRocket podcast.